question is, what does the term creativity mean to you?
Creativity, the way I think the world is getting positioned today, will become essentially the biggest differentiator.
Hmm.
Intelligence, in a way, is getting democratized, right? With the
Yeah,
internet and with
yeah.
access to information at hand. I think creativity will become probably the biggest differentiator going ahead.
How relevant has it become in the COVID and in the post COVID era, Nikhil? Your take on it.
How relevant creativity has become
In the COVID and the post COVID era, because
is,
suddenly Zoom meetings and virtual meetings have become the way of life.
yeah, I mean, sure. I don't know if creativity has a direct correlation with the COVID world or a post COVID world, but
Yeah.
I think just generally, creativity is becoming more relevant across the world. And I don't know in what sense you're using the term creativity, because it's quite broad, and in different contexts it can mean a different thing.
Hmm.
But I personally would perceive that going forward, creativity will play a more cardinal part in how entrepreneurs and organizations evolve and change with the times.
Nikhil, you dropped out of school when you were 14 to actually start a full time career in chess. So, what led to that decision, and what led you to then, divest into the profession that you are in today? And how did you go about in your journey of discovering what you were meant to do?
Yeah, it was fairly organic, Ridhima. I quit because you start playing at the school level and you keep graduating to city, state, national, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
I got to a point where it needed a certain amount of time to be allocated to chess if I had to compete at a professional level. I quit based on that. Along with quitting just on chess, I think I had a couple of tiny businesses I had started during the same time. And I think the culmination of all the opportunities that presented themselves to me at that point kind of triggered me to quit formal education.
Did you at that point, Nikhil, get any kind of resistance from your parents at that point? And I'm still fixated on the
But
point, Nikhil. It's a very unconventional decision to make. So, where did you get those triggers from, considering there is so much emphasis in India that we still give on education?
well, Ridhima, I think our system of pedagogy, in a way, our education system is very archaic in many ways. And what we are teaching the kids of today might not necessarily be relevant, and it's not what they require, when they go out and start a career. Outside of that, I think for me personally, I had two or three other things going for me. Like I had a small business which was going on. I had chess, so it made it a little bit simpler. But I think something really needs to be done here. I think the level of pragmatism in the education that we impart to the kids of today is lacking. It's much lower than what it should be. I saw the new education policy which came out recently. I think it's a step in the right direction, but I guess a lot more has to change before making our education system more robust and kind of training our kids to be able to compete at an international level.
Nikhil, you said back then you had couple of businesses going. So, can you tell us more about that at 14? Which were the businesses or what ideas you were leading?
I had like this tiny, I had this obsession with mobile phones. I'm talking
Yeah.
about 20 years ago now. And back then, they were just evolving. And you didn't have the iPhone then, and stuff like
Hmm.
that. You had Nokia and Motorola making new kind of innovative phones.
Yeah.
So I had a business selling used cell phones in, my peer group or to colleges close by,
Hmm.
which was doing fairly well.
Hmm.
And that, to a certain extent, could have been a trigger as well.
Nikhil, in your journey of reaching where you have reached today, has curiosity played a pivotal role?
Yeah, I think curiosity is very important. Unfortunately, I often say this, that uh, we pay this importance, or it's very prevalent in India, where when a kid asks you a question, you typically say, you don't need to know that, just go study, or, we don't encourage or inculcate curiosity in any way.
Hmm.
Historically, any kind of new thinking or innovation has been led by curiosity. So I think it's very important that we kind of help people, get on the path where they actually question everything and ask more questions.
Yeah.
Even in the corporate space, I think curiosity plays a huge part, because you have to constantly evolve, and this curiosity to a large extent is required to even come to terms with the fact that you need to evolve.
Nikhil, today you're leading one of the most respectable and biggest stockbroking firm. Do you encourage curiosity in your employees, and what is the kind of culture that you have set up at Zerodha?
Ridhima, we try. I mean, I think at the end of the day, people are people, and people do what they want.
Yeah.
There is uh, there is this one thing that we've gotten very lucky with the kind of people who have started working with us over the last decade.
Hmm.
But yeah, we definitely try, and if you were to go back in time in history, I think some of the best philosophers who I personally like were the Greeks, and these guys were less preachy and more curious, and they didn't really say how you should live or what you should do, but they championed the cause of questioning and being curious about everything. So I'm a big fan of that school of thought, and I
Hmm.
personally try to embody it.
Hmm.
If if not, the people around me choose to follow on the same path, is more their choice.
Hmm.
But I definitely see the advantages of being curious as a person, not just about one thing, but about everything.
Nikhil, you touched upon a very important facet of curiosity, which is about asking questions. So, what were the questions you and your team asked way back in 2010 when you set up Zerodha? Where did that trigger come from?
Less about the questions we asked, more about what we needed. So we didn't set out, on this journey thinking, okay, does this problem exist? We
Hmm.
picked the problem which was affecting us because we were traders.
Hmm.
We didn't have a broker out there who was, transparent enough or cheap enough. Everything was fairly pricey. So we set about building a product that we would have utilized, and something that we needed. And I think everything else since that has been fairly organic. There has not been excessive planning. We've set out to, kind of build whatever we require. And luckily, other people have wanted what we wanted, and that entire equation has worked out for us.
So, Nikhil, you said there was not much planning. So, as entrepreneurs who set out in a new domain, new realm, trying to create an impact, one of the things that they hear a lot from investors is coherent planning. Where are your numbers? Where are your forecasting? So, how do you balance between a long term thinking and really delivering on spot? What's your take on it?
Personally, Ritima, every time I've planned anything in life, uh, you know, it and I've planned too far ahead, like what will happen in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Hmm.
It's never worked out. So I've come to the realization that excessive planning is probably futile.
Yeah.
Uh, but in terms of, if there were a barter between, see, the space that we operate in, right? We're all startups. We're all companies which are trying to change the status quo in one way or another.
Yes.
For companies like us, it's very hard to, have a plan and follow through with it, because most often what we thought we will do a year ago will change, 6 months later, and then it will change 6 months later again. So I think that nimbleness around being able to change becomes a lot more important than being able to plan and execute on that plan.
All right. Uh, Nikhil, one of the most frequently asked questions that I get from a lot of startup owners and startup entrepreneurs are, what goes in the mind of investors when they decide to invest in your company? What is the degree of details do they want, or what are they looking from these startup entrepreneurs? Considering there must have been at some point that you also needed an investor, and you must be seeing a lot of startup entrepreneurs making their pitches. What's your take? What are the 3 to 4 requisites they should keep in mind when they are going out there for investment in their ideas?
See, I think people should not sell bullshit in a way, because often people say the market size is X, we'll get 1%, India's
Yes.
population is Y, stuff like that. I think the people you're pitching to, they've kind of like heard this 1,000 times already. So don't go down that path.
Hmm.
Be practical, be worldly, have common sense. And I think more than the product, the problem that you're trying to solve, it's also important to kind of make sure it's in the right industry. You don't want to be swimming against the tide. So you want to be solving a problem in an industry which is growing at a significant pace. I think that's important as well. And thirdly, I think, you need to make a business which turns a profit. I think getting customers, acquire a user base, all of that is great. But if you don't have a path to profitability, I think as an investor into a company, that's the first thing you look for. And that's often ignored today. So I would say, have a path to profitability, be sensible about estimates, have a lot of common sense, and be in an industry that is growing. Yeah.
Nikhil, when you ventured in 2010 in Zerodha, or when you dropped out of school, and I'm sure right now also you may be taking bets on daily basis. Does courage come naturally to you, or there are moments of doubt and self-doubt rather? Will this work or not? Does anxiety haunt you? Are you super cool all the time?
Less today than it did historically. I think as you evolve, you become a little bit less insecure and anxious,
Hmm.
but it's still there. I mean, everybody, I think the human condition is such that we all are programmed to be anxious at different points in time.
Yeah.
I think how anxious we do look or we don't is a factor of how well we are able to, deceive what we are actually thinking deep inside. But we're all anxious, insecure creatures. And I don't think there's any taking away from that. It doesn't matter if you're, Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos. I'm sure everybody's anxious and insecure in their own way.
Nikhil, like you said, that you are not a big believer of planning for long term, but do you
Mhm.
set these milestones for yourself on regular basis? I mean, how do you do goal setting at this juncture of your life when you're touted as the youngest billionaire in India today?
So I don't do any goal setting. I kind of live very organically. I think my life goals right now are very simple. It's stuff like, go to bed, sleep for 8 hours, or try to work out 5 times a week, stuff like that. Uh, at work professionally, I keep a open ear and I'm curious and more. And if something is interesting enough and it will be fun doing it, I tend to go out and do it. But there's no planning, there's no long-term goals, there's none of that.
What are you saying, Nikhil? It's a little surreal to believe that. Really?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think, at least from my perspective, I live like that today. I mean, everybody is different, right? Notwithstanding the circumstances, the professional success that each unique person might have had in their life,
Hmm.
uh, everybody's at a different point of time right now. Where I am in my life right now, I think that's
That's where you
quite,
are.
yeah.
Fair enough. So, Nikhil, on an average, how many hours do you work?
So productive work, I would say, is like a few hours. Time spent in front of a computer would be like 12, 13, 14. I think the actual time that I'm productive in that 12, 13, 14 hour window is probably like 3, 4 hours.
So 13 hours in front of your computer, and yet you get your 8 hours of sleep and you make time for your gym.
Yeah, yeah, of course. I
Okay,
have this
that's
new
dope.
schedule where I do everything in the same place. I work in the same place. I go to the gym in the same place. My bedroom's close by. So once you eliminate that 1, 2 hours of getting ready, travel, and all of that in your life, you have a lot more time.
Nikhil, in my professional work of coaching, I come across a lot of employed people who have these supremely cool ideas. But the thing that's holding them back is fear. Fear of the unknown, fear if they will be able to make money, fear that they have a family, what if they fail. So, what would be your take or any suggestion you have for these employed people who want to take the plunge, but they're afraid something is holding them back? What is a structured way to go about it?
Well, I would say there's this great book. What is it called? Fear of Mortality, I think. I
Fear
think
of
sit
mortality.
down, read. Yeah. So read this book. Denial of Death is the name of the book. Sorry, but it talks about the fear of mortality. I think once you read that book, you'll come to terms with the fact that we all have a finite amount of time on this planet. I'm 34 years old today. If the average age that Indians live to is 70, I have 35 years left.
Yeah.
All I can do correct, all I can do incorrectly is in that time frame. And if you were to screw it up, if you were to like be successful at it, at the end of 35 years, you go away with nothing anyways. So be a little bit brave. Don't be so worried about, we don't live in perpetuity, right? We don't have hundreds of years on this planet. So kind of like be brave. Remember, you have a little bit of time here and use that time to do what you actually want versus what society, family, and other people want you to do.
How do you deal with the pressures that you're subjected, maybe from your family, maybe from the society itself, and the way it's programmed? How do you deal with the noise of the outside
Fa-
world personally?
family had given up on me a long time ago when I was a small kid. I think everything beyond that has been like a plus for them. In terms of society, society is never happy. I mean, Gandhi had his own critics. Buddha, when he was alive, people thought he was doing something wrong. Uh, Society will never be happy. I mean,
Really?
you can pretend, to mold yourself to a version of you which is kind of conducive to the society you live in today.
Yeah,
But I don't think the effort is worth it. I think you should do what you want, live the way you want, and if people like you, they like you. They don't like
that's interesting. Nikhil, another commonly found, no, I won't say misnomer, but a fear that people have shared is, let's say, if you garner money or if you work on an idea and garner fame, popularity, it becomes a lonely place. You don't get time for your family, you don't get time for your friends. So I'm doing my 9 to 5 jobs to attain work life balance. I want to ask from you, do you have like a set of friends, family to bank on? Do you feel like a loner sometimes? How do you, I mean, I know you may not be,
I
but your candid thoughts on that.
I don't. I'm very happy with my social circle and my family and all of that. See, there's this great philosopher, psychologist. I don't know how to frame him in one word. There was this guy called Nietzsche.
Icha.
Uh, he all yeah he
Okay.
always spoke about envy. Like we as humans are programmed to be envious of each other. We don't truly know what we want, right? We think we want what others around us have and we don't have. It's called metic memory. Like if I were to put you in a box and you were to have like lived all of your childhood and your experiences were in that box, when you come out of that box, you
Yeah.
will not want any of the things I want. You'll want your own set of things. Maybe it's like whatever it is, it wouldn't be what I want.
Yeah.
So I totally believe in that. I think as as communities evolve, as humans figure out what we want in life, the one common denominator in all of this is we want what we don't have and we are envious of each other. Uh, so for somebody who might not be doing too well in the capitalistic structure of things, the structure we live under today, the easiest way out is to say that you make peace with whatever you do have and you try to think that that is what you want. At the end of the day, deep down, we all want more. I want what I don't have, you want what you don't have, somebody else also wants what they don't have.
Nikhil, at this point in your life, in your career, you still have things that you want?
Of course, it never ends, right? The more you have, the more you want.
Interesting.
I don't think that ever changes.
Okay. Nikhil, I have last set of two questions for you.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
though you said that you were a certain way growing up years, but what were the experiences that shaped you as a kid, Nikhil? Like you said, your family had given up on you and you made a very independent choice. Though I'm not hung up on that, but I really want to explore what were those experiences that shaped you as a child, that shaped that independent thinking within you. And now, when you're meeting up
Yeah,
with
sure.
people, you're hiring people. What are the attributes of those people who who get your vibe, who you want to interact with, who you want to spend time with? What are those people who get your attention? So these are my two questions, Nikhil.
Sure. So I think the biggest, okay, starting with your first question, I think when I was younger, I was a little bit of a rebel without a cause. I would like to do exactly the opposite of whatever my parents wanted me to do,
Yeah.
or people asked me to do, which is quite stupid. I got lucky and circumstances worked in my favor, but 9 out of 10 times is probably not the right thing to do. To your second question, I think the biggest privilege in life, the side effect of success in a way, or society's notion of success today in a way, is the ability to choose who you work with beyond a point. I think more than anything else, that is what I have gained. That today I only work and spend time at work with the kind of people I learn from and people I like.
Hmm.
Uh, I I think outside of all the other skill sets that one might bring to the table, I think common sense and a sense of being worldly and being in touch with reality is what I appreciate more than all else.
Nikhil, when you say a sense of being worldly, what does it mean? Does it mean like person is well read, has a worldview? What does it mean to have be worldly?
No, no, no. It has nothing to do with worldview. People live in a bubble. Yeah, I think like half the people,
Hmm.
they say what they're thought to say. They behave in a manner that they think or they've been told they should behave. They don't really think what they really want. We all kind of like hide what we really feel or what we really want to say for the fear of being perceived in a certain way.
Yeah.
People who are a little bit away from that, we all are like that, but some people are on that track and they've gone so far down the line that they can't come back. But there are still some people who are
Hmm.
willing to question popular notions and kind of like think about what they might really want, how they really feel. People like that I like.
So, Nikhil, in all honesty, do you appreciate your team members who question, not question, but who have a rebuttal to your point of view or your judgment? Do
Yeah,
you encourage that
yeah,
critique?
those are the best kind of colleagues, right? I mean, if somebody were to just agree with whatever is going on, uh, what is the point?
Okay, so you encourage
Like,
that behavior.
yeah,
Nikhil, you said a very pertinent thing in the beginning of our conversation. You said, Ridhima, what is creativity? So I'll give you my take on creativity, and this is literally the last part of the conversation. You have to give your take that what is the thing that people can do practically to build that acumen in themselves, because I really feel that creativity is really a skill that can be nurtured. It's no rocket science. So, Nikhil, creativity is knowing what your strengths are, knowing what your gifts are, and not getting bogged by the shackles of your 9 to 5 job or some choices that you were forced into. Uh, Creativity is doing a lot of experiments on daily basis. Creativity is not getting bogged by the fear of failure. Creativity is about getting out of your comfort zone without the fear of rejection. So that's my take. You may like to add to it. Now, my question from you is what is it that people can do, whether they are self employed, whether they are freelancers, whether they're entrepreneurs, to build their creativity quotient?
yeah. I mean, see, creativity is a bit like spirituality. Everybody thinks they know what it is, but they don't. I think I'm on the same boat. People keep asking me if I'm spiritual, and I ask them, what does that even mean? Like, I've asked 10 people myself, and they all have different definitions of it. So let me try and not be too preachy about creativity, because
Yes.
even that too, I think, in my opinion, my version of creativity is thinking outside the box, being able to question the prevalent notion or the status quo, and do something which you're not meant to be doing or which is a little bit different than what others are doing. That would be creativity to me.
And how do you deal with the failures and rejections that come along with it? And Nikhil, did you face any failures and rejections as you were building this company?
Of course, yeah, I trade the markets every day. 50% of all I do is a failure, 50% of all I do is a success. Those odds still continue. The one biggest teacher I've had in my life is stock markets because nobody knows what will happen tomorrow. So by definition, you fail half the number of times that you attempt, but you continue to attempt to, buy and sell stuff. Failures are good, I think. Failures kind of teach you stuff. Failures kind of like make you more efficient. There's this great book called Anti-Fragility by Taleb. He talks about how small problems in life make you more robust in the larger sense of life. Now, if Ridhima had no failures in life, you would not be Ridhima's version of today, who's a lot more efficient pre-failure days. But now, if something big were to happen to your life where a big failure comes your way, these tiny failures have kind of trained you to cope with that a little bit better.
That big moment. All right. Nikhil, as we come towards the closure of this show, any last minute message you have for our Janta, for our audience before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think we're too fixated as a people on success relative to each other, and we spend too much time pursuing these tiny goals that we are fixated upon. I think the pandemic, if it has taught us anything, is life is not just about succeeding professionally, but also about having a life, having a family, spending time on the things you love and like and stuff like that. So do all of that, take it easy, and have an opinion. I think we shouldn't be sheep, even as a country. We're going in that direction where we don't question what is happening at every level, starting from the top to the bottom. I think we should all be individualistic in a way. We have a short amount of time on this planet. Say what we really feel, do what we really want, and support what we believe to be true versus, have that mob herd mentality.
So, Nikhil, my top 3 takeaways from this conversations have been have a lot of common sense and work on a problem that you really want to solve with a not long term, but some view on the profitability. Second view has been question everything and have an individualistic opinion. I think these are the top 3 takeaways that I'm walking away with. And Nikhil, I'm sure people must have told you, but your presence and your disposition is very zen-like. It's very calming. So thank you so much for making time for this conversation, Nikhil. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ritima. Lovely talk. Bye.
Bye.